Yes.
I'll talk to you about the details later.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is episode 166. Our guest today is Simon of the Oceanic Gamer. You know him on Twitter as RPGBeatsRL. There is, since we're not actually recording, fuck all news. So this may be a shorter show than usual, but we have a fantastic interview with Red that will be published on Monday, US time. So anyway, all right, Chill, are you recording?
I am indeed.
The other two gentlemen are, hopefully the correct device. My volume is being altered by Hangouts, but I can live with that. Stupid crap.
Test. Yeah, that's good.
All right, and let's hope the Hangout behaves a little better than it did last week, where it was disastrous.
Yeah, worst one yet.
Let me...
Yeah.
Right.
Second worst one. There was one where we actually had to go back to another program and do it there.
That's true.
That was.
Yeah.
I do have everyone's Skype details in case we have to fall back. But let's hope that's not necessary.
Yes.
Tweeting now via OotiniCast. All right. Let's get this show on the road.
Okay. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that is mindful of the future, but not at the expense of the moment. This is episode 166, being recorded on Wednesday, September 24th, 2014. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today are Red and Simon of the Oceanic Gamer. So, Simon, what you up to?
Nothing Star Wars related. Well, no, that's not true. Destiny, obviously. Anyone that follows my Twitter account knows that I went to the midnight launch, so yeah, but less said about that, the better.
Cool.
Minecraft, obviously. And Star Wars has made a return to my life. Instead of focusing on my main, I've decided to start kicking around with some of my alts, specifically my Chiss Operative, my Trooper, and a Sage. So I've been exposing myself 66.6 recursive percent of the time to the Republic, and may I just say the Republic sucks. It sucks so bad. I hate
Why?
complacent jerks. Oh, the Jedi will save us. Oh, why won't someone? Go away, please.
Wait, are
Well,
you
You
role
go
playing?
away eventually.
Yeah. But my playing also sucks. So obviously playing around 3 different characters, my rotations. I don't remember. I'm constantly watching the damn hotbar to see when things are cooling down, and then just randomly clicking on whatever's available. So yeah, my playing's the same as usual, really.
So that's the
I'm
click
thinking
use button strategy.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about something like Destiny is there's really not that many buttons to click. You're out of ammo, and that's pretty much it. But I'm thinking of following Tio's example and drinking more. And I swear this is not a vodka and orange that I'm currently enjoying.
It helps with
Back to you,
PvP,
Jill.
if nothing else.
Oh, that's true.
Are they not called screwdrivers in Australia?
Yes,
Oh,
they
okay.
are. No, hang on. No, it's got Galliano in, doesn't it? A screwdriver?
I've
I don't
always
know
heard
what
screwdrivers
Galliano
just orange juice and vodka, but I'm sure there are fancier versions.
No,
Ooh, fancy.
Galliano's disgusting.
But anyway.
Alrighty, so Red, how about your week?
Did a few more story mode ops. I'm sure that I did each of the dailies as they came up at least once, but not on multiple characters, so not as many ops as last week. Did do quite a few hard mode flashpoints, though, in particular since the new Conquest came out, and then I realized that this is one of the nerfed ones where virtually everything in your list is a one-time off, and I need to stop doing anything for Conquests for a few days while I organize which characters and which guilds I actually want those points to be going to. It's a little frustrating, but, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
However, my gunslinger, who I have been diligently gearing, is nearly maxed out in 180 gear from the comm turn-ins. Not from doing the hard modes yet, but I was really disappointed to discover that there were no enhancements for Power Surge better than my 162s.
Hmm.
Arcanian Gear enhancements, when you use a token turn-in rather than com turn-in, it gives you 47 power. Whereas every single one of the other Power Surge enhancements that I could find, and I actually did go, I had a wait moment. Wait, should I check the other classes? Maybe there's a piece there. I went through all 4 of those base class vendors, and no, none of them were better. I did find, and I'm really hoping that somebody can correct me. Tell me I'm wrong. Let me find a better source. But 62 power, 94 alacrity, but it's alacrity, not surge, and I'm not sure I really want alacrity on my gunslinger.
Well, you can.
One piece of that is on the night vendor, and it's the pants for something or another. But 62
Probably
power,
for
94
tanking.
alacrity, which would be 30 power boost. I just don't know how that's going to hit my resource management energy
Right.
on my gunslinger. So I'll have to see. Probably once I really have completely perfectly, gotten every mod. I did get I got bored and didn't really want to look at every single piece, so I got my bracers and belt last night. And then at the end of the night, I also had to Guildy craft me my 180 main hand barrel. And there might be 1 or 2. I think it's only mods left at this stage. I've got 2
Right, that are hiding.
168 set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not worried with Saboteur, which is what I'm focusing on right now. I don't have energy resource problems, so I'm not worried about the 4-piece set bonus, which just reduces the cost of Quick Draw, which is your ability to use below 30%. It's pretty conditional.
Right.
And so otherwise everything else is 180 or else, optimized from what I can get through comms, which has mostly been 162s off of token drops rather than comms. But I'm okay with that. It means I'm definitely geared and ready.
Just some comments from the chat. This is Justin of the Death and Taxes Guild. He says, set bonus, best in slot enhancements are always better than com vendor enhancements. It's just the nature of the game. And yes, there is a best in slot power alacrity on the Sentinel pants. It's the only best in slot 180 enhancement in comms gear. And also slingers should not use alacrity in gear. So thank you, Justin.
So yeah, confirms everything I found and was hoping wasn't true. In previous iterations, and this might have been pre 2.0, you would find 1 enhancement on 1 piece. That would be okay, and basically it just meant you farmed 8 times as many comms in order to get that 1 enhancement if you didn't have access to the ops. I never had to do it before because I've been running ops so consistently. Now I'm not. But really all that tells me is I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to start doing ops. I'm going to find a hard mode group minimum, maybe even slip into some nightmare content if I can, and start getting the proper gear.
Nice.
And doing as many of the story modes as I do, Dread Fortress, the last 2 bosses actually drop the underworld gear, and then I think a couple of the bosses in Scum and Villainy were dropping underworld gear too, so you can actually start getting some of those underworld gear pieces without even doing hard mode Dread Fortress or Dread Palace, which is nice. Let's see, other than that, I did move the accuracy off of my earpiece so that I could upgrade it because it wasn't even 162. So I picked up an extra piece with accuracy on a gear piece and slotted it in, replacing some power because it was a huge upgrade. Section X, Reputation, and Dailies, I've been focusing on it. I should be able to finish that, if not tonight, actually. I should be able to finish that tomorrow, and I will be Legendary, and then I can buy the die and all the decorations and stuff like that, which I've decided to start. There's only 2 or 3 reputations I need to worry about, not including the Cartel Market ones, which are trash and I always filter out anyway. I will never consume a Cartel Market reputation token for the explicit purpose that I can hit not started and turn them all off. I will go do 1 reputation if it's something that I earn in game, but I'm not going to worry about those ones from pay to purchase reputation.
Are they bound? Can you sell them?
I think they might sell for a credit. Actually, I think I might have actually been manually destroying them. But
So they are bound, though.
I've only gotten them once because I've only opened 1 pack when I won Kranitoka's drawing. It's the only pack I've ever opened. But I bought in a few for my live stream chat room as prizes or whatever. But I buy everything off the GTN. So I did fail to get my conquest goals this week. Basically, I was really focusing on just making sure I was getting those dailies and weeklies done, and not stressed at all. And really happy with where I'm at gear-wise, and was okay not getting my conquest goals. I did have one thought.
Mm-hmm.
Post 3.0, because of course I'm kind of getting sick and tired of people constantly harping on the fact that all we've gotten out is tacticals so far. Because it seems pretty obvious they want to save content to actually be able to incorporate at proper level at max cap when the next expansion drops.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering, and what would be really cool, is at this stage we have, what, 5 or 6? Let's see. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 6 flashpoints that are tactical only, with no story mode or hard mode versions. It would actually be legit cool. Since 2.0 came out, there were no 55 story mode flashpoints anywhere. It was only hard modes, and those were revamped from previous content that hadn't had hard mode versions. I would be so happy if they actually, with every single one of these tacticals, not only gave us hard modes, but actually gave us story mode that led into hard, with gear leading into hard modes. Which is probably a pipe dream, but it would be really nice. We haven't had new story mode flashpoint content since pre 2.0.
That would be cool. All
Beyond
right.
that, last night I had a blast. I did an interview, which Tio says we should be publishing on Monday. An interview with Dave Dorman. He is a well-renowned Star Wars artist, and in fact, as came up, as a teaser, we found out last night that some of his artwork is actually represented within the game.
Very cool.
He's also a big gamer for Star Wars: The Old Republic, but he was a real pleasure to talk to. Very easy. In fact, I didn't have to do much talking because he had so much to share, and we covered everything from his career to different people he's met, how influential he's gotten to be on Star Wars, how he actually does his artwork, as well as what he plays. He had quite a bit to talk about the game as well, which is really cool. He is basically the truest Star Wars fanboy of all kinds. He's only played one MMO before, and that was Star Wars Galaxies.
Right.
So if it's got Star Wars in its name, he's involved.
Yeah, I caught most of the interview. It was absolutely fascinating. I loved it, and I can't wait to hear the few bits that I missed when it gets released on Monday. I think anything we can do to pump it up and get it out there, it would be great, because I think a lot of Star Wars fans, not just SWTOR fans, would love to hear, like, how do the artists, make sure not to break canon, and how do they, when are they allowed to sort of make something that's kind of new?
That was fascinating.
Become canonical. Very cool stuff. If you're interested in Star Wars, in the broader sense at all, Beyond SWTOR was great too. So, and then it was fun to have him be a SWTOR fan too.
We will cross-post it broadly.
Yes.
And we will. I have highlighted it. It is available on my Twitch stream now. I know that Tio is going to actually store that on the OotiniCast server as well for the video feed if you want it. I will say, even if you were actually in the chat room last night, it was pretty active. This is the first interview that I've live streamed, and we got some interactions with the chat room, and they kept asking questions after we cut the stream, and he was still in the chat room, so he started answering questions.
That's
and
cool.
fortunately, I kept recording.
Oh,
so.
good.
And then and because the chat room kept asking questions and he wanted to answer, he was just real accommodating.
Yes.
It reminded me of a few questions that I had forgotten to ask on the stream as well. So those will not be in the video feed. The audio is definitely worth catching for sure. But if you did want to see him, and I was able to show some of his artwork within the stream and whatnot, it was a lot of fun. So. Yeah, excellent week.
He's right up there with Ralph McQuarrie as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Just technically, compositionally, and he's contributed to canon as well as came up in the interview. So yeah, it's well worth a listen. Well worth a listen.
Yeah.
And he's such an affable guy, real down to earth. It was, just a real pleasure.
All right, awesome. Tio, how about your week?
We'll talk about rating for starters. On day one, we just did the last boss in story mode, Dread Palace. We just happened to have a lookout lying around, so that was easy enough just for the conquest points. Then we proceeded into hard mode Dread Fortress. We just cleared 4 or 5 Corrupted Zero on, I think, the second attempt. The new strategy is working beautifully. So,
Yeah.
ironically, the only person who died was me, as opposed to last week where I was literally the only survivor.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a lot easier this week. Then we didn't have much time left on day one, so we just did Nightmare Nephra. On day 2, we spent, it was close to 3 hours doing nothing but working on hard mode Brontes, the end boss in Dread Fortress. This was the first time we've ever seen the fight in the flesh, so to speak. And by the end of it, we were consistently getting to the end of, well, getting into phase 3. So if you've never done this, first phase is finger and hands. You have to attack them. Phase 2 is you actually get to fight Brontes for a while, and he's got Kephis clones popping up all over the place. Then there is a transition with the clock phase, where the beam goes around and you have to kill the droids before the beam hits them, otherwise everyone dies. And that was a little challenging at first, but we're certainly getting there. And then phase 3... What happened in phase 3? No, phase 3 is more fingers and hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the phase 4 is the actual burn phase, but we weren't quite getting there. That second round of fingers and hands in phase 3 is a real pain, but we were progressing further every time, so yeah. Well, I suspect we'll get that down, if not this time, then the time after. Then it's on to the end boss in Dread Palace, and we can finally move on to some admittedly nerfed Nightmare content. So, though we do have to go back and do the last boss in hard mode, Terror from Beyond. We just never actually got there, so I think we moved on to the Dreads. So we do need to do that, otherwise, once we've done that, we'll have cleared all the hard mode content in the game. Yes, we're really slow, but we're sort of casual, so...
We are quite casual, yes.
We are. Yeah. Alright. Other things I did this week... Fight Club has been resurrected with Moff Chong.
Yay!
And yep, and I once again indulged in some alcoholic enhancement. I clearly did not drink enough, unfortunately, so it wasn't quite as I was having nightmares about it afterwards. We had some particularly nasty matches. But yeah, getting there. So anyway, so that's a lesson for you kids. Don't intersperse wine with tea, because it will actually counter the effect. Yeah, not good.
Yeah, this is true.
Stick with straight wine, or
the
whatever.
caffeine?
I guess so. I don't know.
So you're telling the kids to just stick with the straight wine?
By kids, I
wanted to
mean
quote you on
of legal alcohol drinking age in your particular country.
Preferably box wine, preferably the cheapest one you can find, kiddies.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Buy in bulk.
Anyway, I can't believe I'm encouraging this. Other than that, there were lots of hard mode flashpoints. Oh, I should mention, we did have our week off from Conquest last week.
Right.
And ultimately, we ended up over 1 million points behind. So I'm kind of glad we didn't try and push, because it was really hard to push. And this week is not looking that much better. As Red mentioned, it's Flashpoint Havoc, which means most of them are Flashpoint based, but there's really no non-nerfed Flashpoint objectives. There's a whole ton that are one-offs, legacy-wide. You get the points once. Otherwise, as with most other weeks, you get the points just for doing something via the group finder, 55, 50, or a tactical hard mode, Flashpoint. But you've got to be eligible for the daily reward, which makes it non-spammable. You can just do it the once per character, but that is per character. Yeah, unlike Warzones and GSF, yeah. So even though, and we're not doing so well this week either, there are no options to do heroics, and I think we do better when we can actually spend the time to actually get through the planetary heroics on the on whatever as well. I get the impression the massive mega guilds, well, they either have a hell of a lot of people, or they found some clever ways of generating points really quickly. So, don't know. I participate in the Jawa Joyride, but we'll get I'll get Kuzay to talk about that later
Okay.
in an email. And finally, I do want to mention that Chong got the jukebox out of one of the latest Cartel packs. I think the Constables pack, he got it, and he installed it on our flagship bridge.
Oh, cool.
And I noticed that on the screen on the front, there are a list of songs in Orabesh. So I thought I'd
Nice.
just translate them. And so here are some that I found. This is just a direct translation of songs, presumably, that are currently available to play. Run, Kessel, Run. Shake That Wampa Down. There Is Another. Under the Double Sun. Womp Rat Stomp. You Switched Off. Average Brown Wookie. That was a bit strange, I thought.
Sounds like a reference to something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Aren't You a Little Short?
That is a reference to something.
Indeed. All of these basic Star Wars references, presumably associated with real song names, but, well, who knows? Lost Her in a Bet. My Kind of Scum. Salacious Crumble. Sarlacc Almighty. She's Fully Operational. Yesterday's Jawa. Jabba Wabba. And Jedi Mind Trick. There were a couple more screens, but that's all I got around to translating. So very cool that they actually spent the time to come up with these names and just stick them as a kind of little Easter egg. And you can always use our Orabesh trainer on OotiniCast.com if you want to learn how to translate these yourself. Anyway, that's my week. Hope you do chill.
All right. First, a shout out to the chat room. Ben_B55 is here. Colorado J is here. And I'll be talking about J in a sec. Darklighter is here. Elion D, Ghost Mirror, Justin Lando, Mark_Swotor, Nepfin, Rikiri, RPG, K9, Dread, Gas Guy, HK_Chubs, Hung Solo, and Pez. So hello everyone. And right, so once again, overtime sort of limited my playtime, but I managed to get in some interesting things. So, and also after overtime, I went along with my family to a sing-along Sound of Music screening, which was actually surprisingly fun. And it was kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show for squares. So, yeah. So like
But no
everyone,
toilet rolls.
right. No, but they gave everyone party poppers. So, and you're supposed to pop them at a certain point in the movie. So it was all very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's see. And then I did get in a couple of good sessions on Monday and Tuesday, and got my Sentinel through Quesh, and almost to level 38, not quite, still level 37. And so that was good. And I also, this was the more kind of interesting thing, I think, started a Twitch stream account. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to stream regularly or not or whatever, but I had my first sort of real session yesterday, Tuesday evening. And thanks to Jay for joining up and pretty much staying there the whole time and giving me advice and a lot of real-time feedback. And also special thanks to Red. On Sunday, you helped me set up the Open Broadcaster software properly and getting my Twitch account set up and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So the plan is to tweet out whenever I start streaming, and that'll be under my just regular Twitter account at Brandon L. Star. And the stream will be under Chill Swotor. So it'll be twitch.tv/Chill Swotor. And capital letters don't matter, as it turns out. So
all one word.
you don't have to. Yeah, it's all one word, but you don't have to remember if it's capital Swotor or anything. It doesn't matter. So it was a lot of fun. It feels really weird to stream and have to talk the whole time to no one, basically. I mean, they can chat back, but it's 17 seconds delayed, and it's not immediate, and they can't talk back to me directly. And there's a lot of pressure to talk. At least I felt a lot of pressure to talk. So, but it was fun. First part, I was just running around doing solo stuff, and Jay was helping me with sound levels and stuff like that. And then I did a Warzone and kind of chatted my way through that, and it started to feel a little more comfortable. But it's a very much a unique skill set that I haven't yet developed. So looking
You'll
forward
get
to
it.
trying
It's
that.
definitely awkward at first, but
Yeah.
I mean, You're one of the most vocal on the show, so I'm sure you'll do just fine learning to talk while you play.
Well, yeah, I do try to pick my spots in the show, though. I try not to just run on and on, but you kind of have to if you're streaming, or else it's just people watching some anonymous person play a game that maybe they're not understanding because no one's explaining what's going on. So
So I did have a thought too. Since you said you don't have a second monitor, you do have a device
Mhm.
that can log into the Twitch app and
And I
join the
did use
chat
that.
room.
Yes,
At
it was
least
actually
keep an eye on the chat room. Just put it
mhm.
like within eyes view. And
Yep,
the chat room really
it works
helps. Like
well.
talking to the chat room makes it so much easier for you to recognize that you need to continue talking.
Could I recommend a Microsoft Surface? Mmm.
Surface.
That would be
You
nice.
Someone's got to buy the damn things.
Is that the Pro 3?
What was that?
Is that the Pro 3?
No, it's the first one. It's
Oh
the
wow.
RT.
Yeah. Well, I do
I'm
have
an
I
early
a
want one
adopter.
so
I have
badly.
an old iPad I could use as well, but I used my phone last night, and that seemed to work pretty well. I also found out I have a really good internet connection. When I was setting it up,
Yes, you
we
do.
were doing it at very high quality levels. But then when I got into the war zone, there was enough going on that it was like screwing up my frame rate. It was really dropping it low and making it actually hard to play as well as hard to watch. So, but when I dropped it down to more normal levels, boom! All of a sudden, it was working great. So that
You
was
drop it down to
nice.
720?
Yes, and I
Okay.
could probably go a bit higher, or at least I could test it a little higher. But for now, I'll keep it there, and we'll call it good.
Well, and actually, the other way you could do it is you might even experiment with rather than boosting it back to 1080p, maybe you try doing it at a higher frame rate. So rather, because right now I know we set it up at 30, you could
Hmm.
actually do more frame rates, which would be a higher um,
Bandwidth, yeah.
up bandwidth speed, but
Hmm.
be a different way to do it. Some people are a lot more sensitive to that 30, although most of us have been conditioned with movies being what they are.
Right. Anyway, so lots of fun, and I'll be giving that a try. I might test it during the operations, but if it messes up my frame rate too much, obviously I would have to shut it off so that we can continue the operation properly. But I can certainly do it during regular gameplay. So I don't have a schedule or anything like that. I'm just testing the waters, putting my toe in, so to speak. But it's a lot of fun. All right, so on to the tip of the week, and we have 4 of them this week. So let's start off. I'll go ahead and read the first one from Dunadai. It's been a while since my last tip, but I just discovered something really handy for listing different size stacks of items on the GTN. If you split off one item from your stack and list that at your desired price, then when you list any other stack count, it will use that as your unit price. So for example, you list 1 unit of Dash for 500 credits, but then you also list a stack 10. The price for the stack of 10 will automatically be listed at 5,000 credits. It's a simple trick, but it saves me having to whip out the calculator. That's nice
All right.
because it,
That's a
it
good one.
is. It's very tricky because there's a lot of weird numbers out there. You want to have the lowest price by 1 credit, and it's some off round number and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a good. I like that one.
Our
Yeah, I
second
hadn't
tip
actually heard
is
that.
our second tip is from Billy Sai of the Shadowlands server. I have a good tip for new players. When you go to the game, when you get on the game, get a good amount of credits. Buy a mount off the GTN, that is 60 cartel coins on the collections page to unlock account wide. If you do a few of the achievements at the beginning, like the first on-rails classic space mission, Fondor Escort or its equivalent on the Empire side, and defeat all the bosses in the Essalus or Black Talon, and finish a class story on Ord Mantell, Tython, Hutter, or Corriban, that will get you about 60 cartel coins. Then buy the mount off collections, and you have a account-wide mount for any server. Collections is account-wide, not legacy, I know because I have tried it, he says, and yeah, we talked about that before.
That's
Collections are most definitely account-wide.
And yet there's many servers, thus many legacies. I mean, that's a bit of a time. It takes a bit of time, but if you're not willing to spend actual cash on the game, then that's certainly a way to do it. All right, third tip from Digi or DG. What do you think? Digi? We'll go Digi, like cut
Digi?
off from digital or whatever. Digi wrote, want to donate decorations to your guild? Check to see if they have under 50 by clicking the guild button under decorations on the Stronghold management window and sort by the proper category. It's useful to find out which decorations need to be donated and which can be auctioned.
What would make that even better is if you could hover over a decoration that you've yet to consume, and as well as showing how many you have, also show how many your guild has. That would be fantastic.
But not in the
Otherwise
game.
it's a real pain. No.
Yeah. So until then, have to go with Digi's tip. Awesome.
Our last tip is from Golden Chicken of the Shadowlands. Now I'm going to have to translate this into English, so I'll do my best. Firstly, he says presence is overrated. He goes on to describe how it works in that it helps your companion by increasing how much damage and healing they do. Though I think from our own experience, we know that it's more effective as far as healing, boosting healing goes, as far as scaling. Particularly
Also
at
boost
55.
their health. So.
Right. Now, at level 1, if you start with, or Golden Chicken starts with over 300 presence, and talk about a big jump for your companion on his level 29 operative. He's got 496 presence, and in full level 27 gear, he's sitting at 7741 life, and Treek starts with over 8,000 life in her starter gear. Yeah. Treek is ludicrous, particularly with high presence in terms of, you never have to worry at lower levels when you've got her.
I was noticing, though, in my 37 level Sentinel, Treek is pretty well geared out, and of course I do have plenty of presence, but I keep her as a healer right now, and it's starting to get where she's not as overpowered as she was at lower levels, and on some of the harder fights, I'm, blowing most of my cooldowns, if not all of them, and doing aggro tricks and all that good stuff. So I may make the switch to have her tank for me for a while and see how that works out from a Sentinel point of view. We'll see.
He goes on to say, how do you gain presence? And he says there's 3 ways to do it. Number 1 is leadership gear of any kind, by which I assume he means gear with presence on it. Remember, the gear should be on you, not on the companion, because it's not going to help your companion in the slightest.
Right.
Number 2 is from Datacrons. There are a few present Datacrons around. Number 3, by completing your class companion's story.
And actually, so every base class, every individual companion. So you take 8 base classes times 5 companions.
Yep.
And
On
you're
each
gonna
faction. Yep. So.
Right. Well, 4 base classes on each faction.
Yes. So.
But so that's 40. Wait, right? Yeah, 8 times 5. Sorry. It's 50
Math
per
is hard.
companion, I think. So, but anyway, yeah, it adds up pretty quick. But the other one too is if you get a human to level 50, it also unlocks another 100. So, like my 55 my 55s that have all of their Datacrons at this stage have over 900 presence. Also worth mentioning, presence is linear. There's no decay.
Right. It's very powerful.
He says it's only healing and endurance. I'm pretty sure it's damage output too.
No, he does mention that.
He does mention
it's just a little incoherent. So
he did, okay. Yeah. So, Chill, I'm assuming maybe you don't have every single one of those totally unlocked?
I have all the people, I believe, unlocked, but I do not go hard after presence Datacrons.
Okay, right. Yeah, because I was noticing, as long as I was pursuing all the Datacrons, which I tend to do because there's experience on them anyway, that I was able to make it get above, it was around 40 that I started to realize that I could personally compete with my companion. I haven't tried it with Treek, actually. I always pick a favorite and roll with it, but it was 40 where I started to feel like companions or other people in my group at level were no longer destroyed by my companion. Presence really is a lot better than a lot of people realize, though.
Golden Chicken also had a second tip. He discovered while taking the long balloon ride on Tatooine to get that datacron that you can find out how many hooks you filled in your stronghold. You just hover over the percentage completion bar, and it will tell you how many hooks you've actually filled up. And if you want to know a whole lot more about that, there is my guide on bonus percentage and how you can maximize that most efficiently in terms of expanding your stronghold. Each expansion to a given stronghold will add more hooks. You can work out which ones are the best ones to do. I'll link to that guide in our show notes.
All right. And by random allotment, the winner is Dunadai. So congratulations, Dunadai. You're the winner of one of the M8R3 codes, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided Cartel Market Pack from the latest shipment. If you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday for... Did I already say that? Yes, for a chance to win the same. Anyway, that will bring us...
Script that.
I try to go off script and vamp a little bit just to keep it fresh, but sometimes you mess it up. So that'll bring us to the Holo feed. Dio?
There is literally no news this week, so I'm just going to kind of make some stuff up. It'll be true, but it's scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit. Firstly, in the latest OotiniCast, Rode mentioned that in that teaser trailer we talked about last week, it appears that Revan has 2 lightsabers. In fact, he attributed finding out about this to me in our last episode. And I can guarantee I did not say that because I had no idea. But I went back and looked at the teaser trailer, and yes, indeed, there is a second lightsaber, Sentinel or Marauder style, on his belt. He draws one and fires it up. There's a purple one, but here is another one. And while that lightsaber he's holding is the same one that Revan was using at the end of the Foundry, that other lightsaber, it has been noted, may kind of resemble the one that the Emperor has in a particular class story. So, interesting.
Bum, bum.
Yeah, well, who knows. In terms of 3.0 news, we have nothing. Nothing. They said they would tell us something by the end of the month, so no doubt, probably tomorrow or the next day, they will actually reveal everything, and we'll talk about that next week.
What they'll tell us is coming soon. TM.
Yeah, well, there should be some pre-purchase bonuses or something. They should always do something like that. We're not that far out from when we think it's going to happen, so you'd expect something at least sometime soon.
They did say that there would be more information at the end of the month.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I know, but the point being that, dang, if this thing's coming out before the end of the year, it had better be more than just a 5-second video.
Yep.
They did say. Sorry, Sam?
Need to start building hype.
Yeah, agreed. But they did
I think
say
a lot of gamers were disappointed by the teaser, but hello, that's the definition of teaser. It's not a trailer, for Pete's sake. It's a teaser.
They did say that all the information would be revealed in far more detail by the end of the month, and we still got until early next week.
Right.
I'm very, very eagerly excited. I wasn't too stressed about this teaser that came out. Rakata Prime itself was actually a good enough teaser leading into waiting for the end of the month, so I'm much more curious about getting some solid information, even if it's very little. And I'd like to, we know it's supposed to be before the end of the month. I mean, before the end of the year that this thing is supposed to be released, but it could be well before that. They've given us no dates.
It won't be. It won't be.
It won't be. I think any auspicious guesses before the 20th are obscene. But a lot of people think it's going to be beginning of December. I think that's really setting yourself up for disappointment. Although they should certainly have the pre-orders, end of November, around Thanksgiving, I think.
Nevin suggests there will be they'll do the pre-order bonuses in the next week or so, I would guess. Just maybe.
The information, do you think they'll actually open it up for purchase?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's a wild speculation, but that's where I'm going. Anyway, Neptune says there will be another teaser trailer where Revan ignites the other lightsaber. That'd be pretty funny.
I want to know
Anyway,
why he's got a large metal ring around his groinal area. I mean, what's that about?
best
I'm
not to
still
think about
totally
that.
100%. I genuinely believe. Okay, so here's the thing that nobody's really speculated on that I've heard anyway. And granted, I don't know everything and anything, but hello. Obviously, he's got glowing red eyes that we haven't seen before. I'm telling you, he's got the rat ghoul plague. That's the only thing that glows through masks.
Shouldn't that be green?
Except that's yellowish green. Yeah.
It's a yellow, orange, yeah, green type color, but I'm just saying it's really, really bad. He's using the force to hold it back, so he's that much more infected.
Oh.
Well, look, what I'm wondering about that whole light thing is because I'm going to be really pissed off if they're going to make Revan the bad guy boss, and that's what you've got to defeat. Because I mean, most of us who played the original KOTOR, we were Revan, and there's a certain attachment there. I don't like the idea of him being the big bad, so I'm going with the theory that it's not actually Revan. It's a manifestation of the Force, and that's why I think what the glowing is about is I think that literally it's a Force construct.
It's a more solid representation than some of the spiritual versions, like we saw with the Exile, say.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, I mean, we know he's tangled with the Emperor, and the Emperor uses proxies. I mean, the Emperor's wrath, Emperor's
Children.
and voice, blah blah blah. I mean, he's
So
probably
you
got
know.
a proxy to masturbate for him. So who knows? But
In the near
there's
future,
nothing to
we're
say
going to
that
be
this
doing
is
spoiler cast roundtable. Do you want to come and be a part of it?
I've already invited him.
Oh, sweet. Because I totally want to really hash this out. I could give you all sorts of counterpoints and ideas.
Excellent. I look forward to
But
that.
I agree with you. The one point I absolutely do want to agree with you on, I do not want this to be Revan. Not raw Revan. Not the guy
No.
we released
Yeah.
from Entrapment. And certainly not what I played. I do not like the notion of having to kill a character that I really enjoyed playing before.
So, my prediction is it is Revan. Absolutely, 100%, the real deal. And, yeah, but I don't know if we'll fight him. Maybe we'll get to redeem him or something, or help him redeem himself, or whatever. I mean, he's been through that a few times. So, we'll see.
Well, Tio, I bow to you on that because I mean you were right about the Forged Alliance storyline. So
Was I? Oh, smartass. Yeah,
Yeah.
how did you know it was the Revanites after all, Simon?
it just seemed obvious to me.
It seemed,
Alright,
yeah, it's the only,
Yeah.
it's the only group that's affiliated with the cross fact. It did make a bit of sense. I was hoping that they wouldn't actually go to Revan himself, but
No,
which is also why I'm
I,
hopeful that it's not him.
I've always actually been something of a sympathizer for the Revanites anyway, because I don't believe in the light side or the dark side. I think that's a bogus polarization, and I don't go with polarizations in any aspect of life. And let's face it, the Jedi caused the Sith in the first place. So basically, the whole thing's just been the Jedi squabbling amongst themselves from the beginning. So really, the Jedi are the root cause of the galaxy's problem when you get right down to it. And it did seem to make more sense rather than the various crime bosses and other factional leaders that had popped up throughout various story arcs, because they were going after relics. And relics from both the light and dark side factions, the only people I could think of who could possibly be interested or have a motivation for stealing those things was the Revanites. And it turned out to be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice.
So and to respond to your notion, I'm not 100% convinced that there's no light side, dark side. Although you could make the argument from what we know, from what is established truly as canon so far, the distinction being the difference between light and dark side could be as simple as dark side is about harnessing the power of the Force, as opposed to the light side being submitting yourself to the power of the Force.
Well,
But
the thing
I do
about
100% agree with you that the Jedi themselves and their antithesis nature to the Sith, like Jedi and Sith is a religion. How you use the Force is separate from that religion.
What about the
Yeah.
corrupting effects of the Force, though? As in, it seems to make people who go the dark path really kind of fugly. So,
But that's
That's
assuming
true.
that the dark side of the Force is only using rage and passion and these overwhelming, whereas you can have just as much passion in loving and caring for others as you can in hating and having vile emotions that could deteriorate your nature. You could be a
Except
does
dark
make the
Jedi
Force
don't
Jedi
like
user that's
passion.
actually totally friendly.
Jedi don't like passion, and it does make the Jedi ugly going to the light side because it makes them into sanctimonious, celibate assholes.
Yeah, the Jedi teachings themselves can create monsters just as dangerous as the Sith
But
teachings. The
more
Sith
And
embrace
Sith,
the
he created the
hatred.
Sith.
clearly.
And I think that's actually, okay, if we really want to go off topic real quickly here, this is why Anakin is actually very interesting, and his entire downfall wasn't his hatred. It was his love and concern for people dying.
Mm.
He didn't want the ones he loved to die. It's also the thing that redeemed him at the very end, is the fact that he loved his son and decided to abide by his son's wishes rather than some superficial thing that he'd realized at the end of his life was never going to be realized from false promises of the Emperor.
He wasn't showing a lot of love to the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine, the ones who...
No. It's true, but it was actually passion and feeling and emotion that was what redeemed him. His relationship with his son is, not the Jedi teachings.
Yeah, what about the Padawans in the Jedi Temple? That was all a bit unpleasant.
Oh, totally agree. His fall was dark and terrible, and it was only love that saved it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, you could consider it an act of kindness because with the entire Jedi Order wiped out, those kiddies would have no one to look after them. They'd starve in the ruins of the Jedi Temple. Killing them was the only humane thing to do.
Uh-huh.
I'm shocked that you didn't say that.
You're merciful.
Hard-hearted bastard.
Or just, hey, I'll do it so that the Emperor doesn't. Because the Emperor might torture him along the way.
All right, so we do have a bit more actual news, so let's just look at that. Firstly...
One more thing to say, sorry. Youngling shish kebab. Mmm. Tasty.
Okay, and on that note, also, we have, from the forums, they've kind of mucked up the latest pack again. This time it was a slot machine. Smuggler's Gambit was shown as being in the pack, but it turned out it wasn't, so they're going to do the thing where it'll be available for 1 credit at some point in the future. My money would be on 2.10.1, which we'll talk about in a bit. Okay. And, yeah, it'll be purchased with 1 credit, so, yep. The same way as they did with the Voss Embassy sign, but like with the sign, it will only be available for a limited time, so make sure you stock up when it does turn up. Now, we mentioned a while ago...
I'm really psyched about. I think this might be the most excellent oops they've made yet.
It's a pretty cool gadget.
Yeah, I mean, just from the decorating perspective, having more than one is actually really nice.
Right, make an actual little gambling den.
Yeah, I'm seriously thinking about dedicating a room in one of my strongholds. So I only put objects in there that BioWare screwed up with the market and had to sell for 1 credit to say sorry, because it's building up, folks. It's building up.
All right, we mentioned a while ago that Hillary Nicole, who's one of the community coordinator, had put a post on the forums about guilds to send her the information, then she would email them back, and then no guild leaders actually got an email. She has subsequently updated that post, which I only realized indirectly, to say that she's got quite a few private messages, and the response has been amazing. You can translate that to overwhelming. And so she saved all the information, but she will not be sending out a mass email, which is why none of us have heard about it. So should the time come when she needs to contact guilds, she will do so. You can always get in touch with her via a private message, etc. on the official forums. So don't expect an email, and yeah, she is saving the information. So she's got a massive list of all the guilds who've got in touch with her. We talked about last week, the class forums were all being consolidated. Musco has finished up with that. The role forums sound like they were going away briefly, but they're back as well. So if you're into that kind of thing, as a location to get the sticky guides, it remains excellent for that. So all of those have been preserved. All the sticky guides are still there in the class forums. And there was an issue with, it's not apparently intended, if you have a stack of decorations in your inventory, if you right-click on the stack, it isn't meant to bind all of them in the entire stack. And apparently in 2.10.1, they are changing a whole bunch of decoration bind rules to avoid that issue. So it'll be interesting to see just what they do, though this isn't the only post which references changes coming in 2.10.1. And so our speculation would be they're probably going to launch that on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 30 September. That'll be 3 weeks after 2.10. And that got me to sort of thinking about, so what is happening and when is the expansion actually going to launch, 3.0? So just laying it all out. So as we know, 2.10 launched 3 weeks after 2.9, and even if it did just add a tactical, and taking Nightmare Power away from Dread Palace. Now, if you space it out, the only other things we have are on 14 October, which is 2.10 plus 5 weeks, is the official launch of Galactic Strongholds. That's when free players, in addition to preferred and subs, can actually get hold of it. So that's the only actual date we know. Beyond that, if they stick to their known cadence, they could drop 2.10.2, 2.10.3, 2.10.4, basically every 3 weeks going forward. And then my speculation is that on Tuesday, 23 December, is when they're going to launch Game Update 3.0, which will be 15 weeks after 2.10. Though, if you actually think about it, that is 18 weeks after 2.9, which is basically 2 lots of 9 weeks. So, in theory, that's actually not so bad. In terms of how long we have to wait.
Have they confirmed up to .4?
They haven't confirmed anything beyond. This is the first time they mentioned 2.10.1. So they may not drop the minor releases, or they may space them further out. 2.10.1 could come the week after next, depending on when it's ready.
Right.
We don't know. They're not really not telling us anything.
So you're just decoration changes, right?
And whatever else. They have not confirmed any content, for sure.
Right.
It'll
So
be
what
That's all they've let us know so far.
So what you're saying is just based on how many weeks there are left in the year and based on their current cadence, you would have this many mini patches and then you would have game 3.0.
Roughly, so, yeah. And the game did launch on Tuesday, 20th December 2011. So around 23 December is pretty much the 3-year anniversary of the game. They could always just launch it on 20 December, which would probably be is that a Saturday or Sunday, whatever.
For 2.0, how early was the early access for the pre-orders? I forgot.
It wasn't long.
Yeah.
Was it just 1 week?
No, it was longer than that, wasn't it? It's a few weeks.
I can't remember. Or a kid.
I think it might have been a week. It wasn't that. I don't remember it being that long.
Either 5 or 7 days. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering because then I want to calculate that in as well. Does that mean we might have access as early as possibly the 16th? Because I'm of course going to be pre-ordering.
Well, that goes without saying. Who knows what the pre-order bonus will be? But
I don't even care what it is. I'm going to order it.
Of course. We don't know about cost, of course. Last McKeb one was it $10 for subs?
$10 for the subs of pre-orders, yeah.
Yeah. So
because there was a point after the pre-order date, even if you were a sub, it was more than 10. Go ahead, sorry.
Was there?
Mm-hmm. Like the last week or two.
I don't remember that part. I thought you just lost a pre-order bonus if you didn't pre-order. The cost
remains. Oh, maybe that was it. That the price remained the same, but the bonus disappeared.
Which is the whole point of a pre-order bonus.
I guess that does make sense.
Any other thoughts on that? We got no information, so we're just...
I just think it's... I would like to see actual content before 3.0. I guess that's all I can say. I would like to see it. That's such a huge gap What was? Oh, yeah, and the only actual content is the last
There is
Flashpoint.
no
Ricotta
actual
Prime,
content.
right?
There's nothing.
Ricotta Prime. That's the last thing we saw, and there
In
was nothing.
2.10.1, yeah. No, in
Right.
2.10, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they need to put something out there, even if it's just a new map for PvP or GSF or something. They need to put something out there. It's because that's just such a violation of everything that they promised us for the, you know, they're extending deadlines every few months for the past year.
Mark Swotor suggests pre-order bonus is having all your companions replaced with Kefis. I personally never want to see him again. He'd better not be a boss in 3.0 in any form. Please, no more.
There is one thing if they actually made that pre-order early access more than a week early, if they actually say they actually released it to everybody on the 30th, and then the pre-order bonus actually gave you a month early, so the beginning of December,
No chance.
I would actually accept that as, well, that's 12 weeks. That's still
No, that'd be silly.
a month longer than what their cadence is supposed to be.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would still be okay with that as content at that stage.
Yeah, no.
Okay, whenever you're drinking Red, stop.
We're not
Stop
going
it
to get
now.
anything for 3.0. Anything. Oh, maybe they will do something, but it'll be fairly trivial. But
Maybe something for GSF,
content
but I
will
can't see anything else.
yeah, maybe not.
That's what I'm saying. I think a map would be nice. A map for GSF, or not even game mode or anything. Map for GSF or map for ground
No,
PvP,
Red.
even if it's
No.
only an arena map. They need
No.
something.
No. I mean, yes, but no. Anyway, I hope to be really wrong about that, but
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, because they are in so much violation of their business promises.
all
at
right.
this
I tend to
stage.
cut this stuff out, so just don't even start. All
It's
right.
true, whether or not you cut it out.
The next Cantina will be in New York City on Thursday evening, 9th of October. So that's the next one. And the following one will be in Las Vegas. Sometime, we have yet to find out. Hopefully now that they've announced New York, they'll be able to tell us about Las Vegas. Because I'm still going to be there. We're still having the Utini meetup in conjunction. We will still have the live recording of UtiniCast.
Right.
So yeah. But I know a lot of people are waiting until the specific date. to
Yeah,
actually make
exactly.
the trip.
I'm one of them. I took off an extra day ahead and behind it of the actual weekend, just in case they do it on a weird day like that. But at some point, I'm gonna have to buy a ticket and be ready to go. So, worst comes to worst, I miss the cantina, but we'll just make sure to meet up anyway.
Did they have because I know for Vegas, when they announced Vegas, they said it would be somewhere between the 7th and the 9th, which is the Friday to the Sunday. Did they say the same thing for New York, and now they're coming
No.
out a day early?
I checked that. The range was Thursday through Sunday.
It was. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I did check that. I did wonder exactly the same thing. Given my
'Cause-
flight arrives on Friday morning, I don't want to do
Yeah.
it.
And I've been having all of the people that I'm recommending to come in on Friday morning, too. I actually am getting there Thursday morning, but honestly, I don't want to go to the cantina the same day I land.
I certainly don't, because jet lag is a bitch, but I'm sure there are drugs which will help. All right, last story very quickly. On our local Australian news, our ABC, that's the Australian Broadcasting Commission, there's apparently a guy from the 501st Legion. Is that right? 501st?
Yeah, 501.
Yeah. 501st Legion, the guys who dress up as stormtroopers and do all kinds of charity work. Apparently they're here in Australia as well. I don't think I'd ever realised that, but
Yeah, they're global.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy is walking around Australia. His name's Scott Loxley. He's 45. He's walking the 15,000 kilometres around Australia's circumference, which is 9,300 miles. Fairway. A lot of our coastline is pretty inhospitable, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just doing it to raise money for a local hospital. So good on him. He's trying to raise around $100,000. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's going to take him 18 months to complete his journey. Australia's big, and there's a great picture here of him riding a camel. With no dewbacks this side of Broome Islay, I am forced to ride my imperial camel instead. Broome is a city somewhere on the top left part of Australia, apparently.
Little bitty city.
Yeah, it's a great picture, actually. And his costume is excellent, as you would expect from the 501st. So, yeah, that's kind of cool.
So, two concerns I have. One is it should really be Moss Broome, not Broome Islay. And the other thing is that codpiece and that saddle does not look like a good match. He must be losing blood supply to some critical areas.
Okay. All right.
Hello?
Yeah. Thanks so.
It does look painful.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the news.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Also, just a couple of other things from the community. Firstly, thanks to people who upvote our posts on the SWOTOR subreddit. It is greatly appreciated and does help people see our episode when we post them and anything else, such as articles that we link to. So thank you. Very much appreciated. And secondly, there is another SWOTOR podcast joining the collective. And the host is Jin. The podcast is Tor Noob. And what her thing is, she apparently has filled up 22 character slots with characters where she hasn't managed to get any of them above level 20. And so the niche she is filling is for players who are new to the game, and she's just covering all the fundamentals. So it's really a kind of SWOTOR 101, but that's her thing. So it's actually pretty good. She does video episodes, but which is just it's audio with images showing up on the screen that are pertinent to the discussion, as well as a MP3 which you can download. So I'll link to all that in the show notes. So
and I actually watched the first one. A great way to describe this would be she's doing. It's a podcast and you don't need to see, but the video helps because it's almost like it's a video manual for the entire leveling experience, where she really breaks it down simple. So if you do have real basic questions, even to the extent of, how do you open up your UI and make customizations and things like that. And I agree. What she's doing really very well as well is that her episodes should not get stale, because as long as you're new to the game, this episode will be relevant. Whether patch changes and new content drops aren't going to impact what she's been covering so far.
Right, and even if
I
she
know I'll
doesn't
be listening to it. And there's not
going to be a big changes to leveling 1 through 20 on Tython and Coruscant and whatever. So even if she delves into actual content that way, it'll be fresh practically forever. So yeah, that is awesome.
Anyway, that's the news.
All right, that'll bring us to the force feedback, where we read tweets and emails. And chat room, if you have any questions to ask Red, or any of us, Red will be gathering them now to ask once we're done with the feedback. All right, and we'll start with Kuze. Kuze wrote, "We had another fun Jawa joyride this week. The Jawa steamrolled story mode explosive conflict, gaining some achievements, mats, and decorations."
You said decos, Joel.
Yes, I know. He likes to use the decos. I like decos too.
I heard Tio use that last week.
Yes.
I haven't heard anyone else use it. Let's make it
a thing. Really?
It's an Australian.
Let's make it a thing.
Kuze's American, but he still used his decos, and I do too sometimes. But
Tio made it up.
Tio fanboys unite.
All right. One notable deco was one of the 2 tanks, which was won by Grace. Luckily, she can't drive that one off a cliff.
Yeah, she had a bit of trouble navigating in the Gav Aragon on the way in.
Yeah, did she fall in that one big hole that leads down to whatever? Nothing? Death?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And Kuze also says, thanks to everyone who came out, including Mr. Tio. So, yes. So you were there,
Yeah, it was a
Tio.
pretty smooth run. We actually got through everything without wiping, which was,
Yeah.
some of those are a little mechanic heavy. I had my first go
Mhm.
up in the tower of the minefield,
That's right.
actually clicking on the things, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? It is.
Mhm.
It's very different from doing anything else on that map. All right. Ari wrote in Bill Lentz quote on today's OotiniCast, saying something awesome on Conquest and SWTOR. Conquests encourage people to do the things they are not doing. Take advantage of what materials have been built within the game instead of always saying, why isn't there something new every 30 days? Very nice.
Well said, Bill. Yes.
Yeah. Jay Connell wrote in, and hello, Jay, because he's in the chat room and also was helping me with my stream, as I mentioned. Anyway, Jay wrote, I'm a little disappointed that Tio's pro tip about drunken PvP didn't make tip of the week. It's seriously good info.
Yeah. Nothing to add.
Okay. All right, and maybe this is a good time as any to say that Jay wants you to eliminate absolutely nothing from the interview with Red, because he thought the whole thing with the artist was awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't taken any content out. It's all cool.
Just cleanup work. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Catalyst wrote, who is founder of the Shadow Legion community on the Shadowlands server, and they have a website, www.theshadowlegion.net. Anyway, Catalyst wrote, recently I picked up the X-70B Phantom decoration for my Nar Shaddaa stronghold. This cost a lot of credits to get, and I thought it would be nice to add more detail to my player housing. However, after adding it to the large ship hook, I found that it added nothing towards the completion percentage, which I used towards getting my bonus for more conquest points with my various characters. Why would anyone want to lose a large area and make decorating that much more difficult by having to cram those decorations in less rooms, making them look crowded and ugly? I wish they would have given us something worth losing those hooks over, closer to 10 to 15% just by using the ship decoration. Thanks for the great show every week. It's a clever idea. In other words, certain very large, very hard to get, or very expensive decorations might count more.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
As opposed to the very simple system they've done now, which leads to Musco spraying posters all over the walls.
Yes. Pops wrote, recently started playing as free-to-play. I ended up spending some money on unlocks in Cartel to get preferred status. Very good. I have 6 toons in their mid-20s, and I solo a lot, and I mean a lot. I'm interested in getting a stronghold, but with leveling skills and the reduced credit output for the free-to-players, I'm finding it virtually impossible to get a high amount of credits. I only get about 4 to 6 hours each week to play, so I need some way to focus my gameplay towards earning more. Are there any tips you can give to a player who wants to experience the full game on limited time and an extremely limited budget? Sent from my holocron. A credit cap precludes certain in-game credit purchases.
Someone added that.
Huh?
Someone added that. The credit cap precludes.
Okay.
So is that red?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah, the credit cap precludes certain in-game credit purchases. So, like, you can't purchase Tatooine without, even the base apartment without. I don't even think that the.
Well, the base is 3 million, so yeah, you can't even do that.
2.5, I think. But I think even with what's that escrow, you can buy escrow so that you have access to a higher amount of credits. I don't think that even covers the base purchase price for Tatooine. So it's cartel coins or bust at that point, because it's not even an item that you can sell on the GTN.
If you purchase enough escrow, surely it would count enough. You'd eventually get up there to the appropriate number. Of course, it's a terrible way to do it.
Oh, do they stack?
They should, yeah.
I never assumed that they did. If that is the case, then yeah, you're absolutely right.
Still, that's a very difficult way to go about it.
You may as well just spend the cartel coins on the actual unlock at that
Right.
point.
Or sub
Yeah.
for 1 month and then just play like hell and team up with everybody you can find and just see if you can accumulate enough in that 30-day
Indeed.
period.
All right.
Which is
That's
totally
true.
Yeah. Also,
if you
Bill
focus,
and
it's pretty quick.
yeah, and Bill in previous episodes has given some tips along these lines where basically holding on to items that are close to the credit cap in actual value on the GTN and using them as, basically credit markers that you hold on to and then sell when you need to. Also, I think just in general, learning to work the GTN would help with the credit experience because it doesn't take a lot of time, but you can definitely earn some good credits that way. It's a little tricky on the preferred basis because you have a limited number of slots and so on, but it certainly can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I'd say the other tricky part is that he has all his characters in the mid-20s, and low-level characters, and especially if you're alting a character all the time, they do tend to be a bit of a credit drain rather than a credit gain. High-level characters, much easier to make money, and especially once you get to do dailies, that becomes a real credit gain at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like one of the reasons I haven't unlocked all the various apartments and so on in the game is simply because I'm spending a lot of time on my Sentinel who's mid-level and just not earning very many credits. So even though I swing over to my other characters and do a bit of crew skills and so on, I'm just, it's more, like I say, it's more of a credit drain than a credit gain. And yeah, so maybe try to find a main and level them up, and you'll probably find your credits going up that way as well. All right. Mariah wrote in, Dear SWOTOR, I beg you for multi-spec and for account or legacy saved keybinds /bow.
100% agree. Yes.
Me too.
Right. Yeah. Basically, I use the same keybinds on every character anyway, and every time I make a new character, I end up spending a few minutes just trying to make them all identical.
So imagine if they added multi-spec to 3.0 and for purchase for cartel coins or something, it may add it free as a pre-order bonus. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Not going to happen.
Joe Foran wrote, "The Empire wins at some point. Note the symbol of the Republic in the movies. There had to be a period of Imperial rule."
Not true, as my research indicated, as in reading a few Wikipedia articles. The symbol of the Republic, as shown in the movies, is based on the Bendu symbol, where the Bendu was a collection of non-confrontational beliefs practiced by the Bendu monks. The symbol of Bendu was a circle connected by 8 even spokes, which represented the unification of the galaxy by the Force. So that's basically the symbol. Now, we know that at the time of the Old Republic, for whatever reason, in where SWOTOR is based, they use a kind of bird which is not related to the Bendu symbol at all, and there's no real clear explanation of where that came from. And it is similar to the one that they do end up eventually using, the Alliance Starbird, which was used by the Rebel Alliance. But yeah, basically the fact that the symbol used by the Empire, which is also in SWOTOR's time, is similar to the Bendu symbol is a rather unfortunate coincidence. It does not mean that the Empire eventually win, because they don't.
No, and it's not. It's not
they do
in history
before the
for
movies.
a bad regime to use a symbol that, in a slightly modified form, means something quite different. I'm thinking here of the Sanskrit symbol that was bastardized by the National Socialists in Germany.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, and Palpatine did vary the symbol a little bit and used it when Republic changed to Empire. And yeah, so clearly they do want to switch off that.
And he totally ripped off Hitler. Or maybe that was George Lucas. Who can tell?
And I was particular to say that they have to win before the movies, because the Republic is in power for episode 1. Say what you will. They could end it long before that with the Empire winning. That's true.
Time is a continuum until the heat death of the universe, so we'll just see what happens. We'll see who wins at that point. They'll probably still be fighting around some brown dwarf as the rest of the universe goes black.
It would be, this will never happen, but it would legitimately be awesome to actually play up to the point where the rule of 2 goes into effect. Right up to Bane.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Darth Bane books, especially the first 2 of the 3, are among my favorites Star Wars fiction. So.
What happened to the third one?
Just didn't have the right punch, and they had already gone through the lore part of it, where you kind of find out how the rule of 2 gets established,
right.
and so on. So it was just kind of more of the same, but not really, that sort of thing. I mean, it had
because the first book, I only read the first
2 are awesome.
Yeah, and the first 2, it's the first one is him coming up with the idea, and then the second is him getting his 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
All right. Kranotoko wrote, and of course Kranotoko makes the cool Star Wars videos on YouTube. I don't know about other servers, but I'm finding something rather bizarre on the GTN. People are selling the Tanovic Customization 2 on the GTN for 175 credits and putting it up for 1 to 2 days, and yet if you see it costs around 200 credits to keep it up for over a day. So why might people do this when they might get a loss? And Jared wrote back, probably just want it out of their inventory and don't want to delete it. Lots of folks probably forget about the deposit costs after using the GTN for so long.
If it sells.
Right.
Are they saying it costs more than what they're putting it up for? Would it even let you do that?
Well, yeah, but the GTN, I mean, you only really lose it if you pull it, right?
Right, and then otherwise there is a flat percentage taken as a cut, which is less than the deposit.
Right. In this case, it would be less. Sometimes it's more. Usually it's more. Hopefully. But yeah, it should be all right.
So you'll come out ahead, but probably by very, very little.
Yeah. Protel wrote, "Yo, Tio, found you in Archage, man. Surf Tio."
Yeah, and now Archage is another MMO that's recently fired up, port of some Asian JRPG, basically.
Okay.
Very
KRPG.
sandboxy. K of Korea.
It's Korean. Yeah.
Right. Indeed. So yeah, and he found Surf Tio in the game, which is presumably just an amazing coincidence, but
I'm sure it is.
There's a resemblance I can see, not physically, but this gentleman appears to be in the act of sweeping out a meadow, and I can see you doing that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Pastime in Queensland, I believe.
Yeah, that's kind of a bizarre place to be sweeping, isn't it?
Just a bit, especially since it already seems to be extremely clean.
Yeah. It's mown. It's well mown.
Yeah.
No.
Someone's planning a golf course on this surf's land, I think. All right, Turg wrote in, why don't they have multiple guild ship options like strongholds? There could be small ships with cheaper unlocks for small guilds. It's interesting. SWTOR Minor.
It's a good idea, but it involves too much work, I suspect.
Yeah, maybe eventually. SWTOR Minor did pipe up, so like a Thranta/Terminus class size ship for smaller guilds? That would be cool.
As Simon suggested, it is a fantastic idea. It makes perfect sense, and it's just a huge amount of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
But it is a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Okay.
All right. Now, do we want to read this email, or shall we save it for next week?
Well, next week is probably going to be all the explosive news about 3.0 that's supposed to be coming out, so maybe we should read it this week.
Yeah, I like this email, actually.
All right, let's do it.
We've got time.
Okay. Fru wrote, following on from last week, and by the way, just stop anytime and if you need to say anything or want to make a comment, because it's long. It doesn't make sense for me to read the whole thing.
I actually prepped notes to summarize at the end. So.
Oh, okay, well that helps too. We look forward to that. Hru wrote, following on from last week's show, there's one observation that I've made in the past, but I feel should mention again. The perspective of OotiniCast essentially comes from people who are accustomed to joining guilds, playing in groups, and doing a fair amount of Elder game activities with multiple level cap tunes. There's of course nothing wrong with that in the context of an MMO, and I imagine the majority of your listeners will fall into the same category. However, there are a smaller minority of us who prefer to remain solo players, who don't usually join guilds and rarely, if ever, join in group play or venture into PvP, but still get a lot of enjoyment out of the content that is accessible for solo players within the game. And sometimes the solo player's perspective gets overlooked in your discussions. Last week's Starlight Digest on the Conquest event is a case in point. Though I agree that the event is primarily designed for guilds and the progression of guild ships, it is also attractive to solo players because of the benefits that can be gained for their personal strongholds, and in particular the crafting matte decorations that come as a reward for completing your personal weekly conquest objective. Admittedly, you have to work quite a bit harder as a solo player to reach your weekly target, since you don't have the benefit of the guild invasion multipliers, and the objectives that you can complete are largely restricted to crafting heroics, killing so many mobs on a given planet, doing the lower level flashpoints that can be soloed in story mode and so on, but it's still worth doing. Not that I'm whining, because I still love the game and I appreciate that it's primarily an MMO, but I also have to point out that Galactic Strongholds is actually one of very few pieces of new content over the past year that is accessible to solo players. Apart from that, we've had the Rakghoul Resurgence event, and the great money sink that was the Nar Shaddaa Casino event, and that's about it. If you don't enjoy PvP, then Ranked Warzones and Galactic Starfighter are non-starters, and making Kuat Drive Yards and the new Forged Alliance's story arc into level-buffed tactical flashpoints was hugely frustrating and disappointing from a solo player's perspective. At least Personal Strongholds have given us a new project to work on in-game, and the weekly Conquest events offer solo rewards that are a desirable contribution to that. I imagine that BioWare intended for the Conquest events to be another means of encouraging solo players to try to join in on group activities in order to make their weekly targets, and also perhaps at the other end of the scale to encourage guild members to join forces with other players, gilded or ungilded, to complete as many Conquest objectives as possible, thus bringing more integration to the in-game community as a greater whole. While it hasn't dissuaded me personally from remaining a confirmed solo player, it has at least finally prompted me to join a guild, Utini Knights, so that other people can benefit from my conquest points as well as myself. So yes, I guess that could be my tip of the week. Even if you're a confirmed solo player, go find a friendly guild, preferably Utini Knights or Utini Rage, and ask to join them. You'll get the huge benefit of the weekly invasion multipliers to help you reach your weekly conquest target more easily, and potentially get guild rewards as well if your guild ends up on the top 10 on the leaderboard. And the guild will have the benefit of adding your conquest points to their leaderboard score. It's all good. All right. Well, essentially that works out to even if you're a solo player, there are lots of good reasons to join a guild right now. Conquest.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And many guilds will welcome people who want to do what they like, and that's certainly true for our guilds, where we encourage our players to do whatever moves them to do in the game. There's no
Right.
requirements on particular performance or anything like that.
Unless a guild is absolutely capped up to the max number of players and they're all active players, no alts, no nothing like that. Any player that you get at that point who's doing any contribution is just gravy. So why not have them in? So
Yeah,
and-
exactly. It's
Go
someone who can contribute. They don't even need to interact with the guild. They can contribute.
Right, exactly. It makes
I
sense.
actually
Sorry, go ahead.
was ready to rage when at the beginning of his email, which is why I didn't want to say anything until it was finished, because I really
Okay.
like how he wrapped up his thoughts. It was a great email. He likes to solo. He likes conquests. He did make a point. I think he trivialized some, but I like the summary of We've had Conquest introduced. We've had the Rat Ghoul event introduced. We've had the Casino event introduced. He may not like it, but we do have PvP actually up and running and functional, ranked PvP. GSF content is still content. He doesn't like to play it. It is very much solo content, however. We have had 5 new flashpoints, and we've had a new nightmare mode level of operations, but that does not allow him to play solo. I like the point that I actually really like is where he finished. There's a huge point to having your character in a guild because it gives you the opportunity to get an additional reward at the end of the week. It's not fundamentally necessary for your stronghold. I think it's really cool that he's a big solo player and is trying to get that stronghold even before he hits max level cap. I think that's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually recommend, I've always been a proponent of using /ignore and turning off general chat just because I don't like to have that rhetoric, something that I need to read. If you don't particularly care about playing with the guild or whatever, you can turn off guild chat just as easily as you can turn off general chat. Join the guild and get the perks, and let your conquest points go somewhere. I mean, there's no reason not to, and you can actually benefit from playing the way that you want to. You don't have to sacrifice that. Just put your character in somewhere. It's kind of an interesting idea. But I would totally agree. If you're on the Harbinger, join Utini Knights or Utini Rage. Because they're cool. And I would even go so far as to say, Last Dark Reapers, Imp side on the Bastion, or Purge or Ready Check on the pub side of the Bastion, because they're large guilds that are, either number 1 or always top 10 if you just want to get in there and get those perks. And they'll let you stick around if you're contributing your conquest points. So.
All right. And
Any thoughts from Simon? Oh, sorry. Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
No, I would just I'd say that I'm a solo player myself anyway, predominantly. When I have teamed up with people casually and I just did a casual group up, there's no communication invariably with those folks, and you do 1 or 2 things together, and then they end up charging off in one direction because they've got something to do and you've got something to do, and you just quit out of the group. So yeah, I've said it before, and I'll probably keep on saying it because entropy is one of my great strengths. I need to join the guild, but just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Why don't we bring you in after this podcast is finished recording?
Okay.
Let's get it done.
Right. Rue does make some interesting points about a lot of the content since McCab especially sort of being geared more towards more hardcore players. There's a lot of end game content. Ranked war zones by their nature are end game content and so on. So, and he makes some interesting points about how strongholds and conquest are truly good for any level player, that sort of thing, including solo players who are not interested in doing group material.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that's a show. If you'd like to play with us, what? Oh, were there any other questions from the?
Questions, yeah. A nice one to post to all 3 of you. Would you prefer that they released Dread Fortress and Dread Palace 6 months apart?
Doesn't really matter for our particular case too much. The fact that they came out around the same time actually kind of helped us, just because we could do one boss in one and get a little bit of gear and then go back to the other one. But if they'd spaced it out, it wouldn't have affected us too much. So I guess I would have been fine with it.
I would have preferred another operation.
Right, well. Not exactly the spirit of the question, but yes, I would agree with that.
It would have made more sense to space them out, but it was nice having the variety right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
yeah. I mean, narratively, they're really pretty closely connected. I would have preferred more of a cadence that we had with Forged Alliances. I think where 6 months I think is too long, but a couple of months, 6 weeks. 4 weeks even, but probably more than 4 weeks. But Yeah, say 6 weeks. I think that's probably a good gap, because that way one's still fresh enough in your mind that it all makes sense. You don't have to, assuming you
You haven't
don't
been
constantly replay operations, then you
right.
can you can remember what the hell happened.
Yeah, you haven't been space barring the story for weeks on end.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm actually of two minds. I'm okay with them actually putting a time gap between hard mode and nightmare mode. Because I would say, like, if you're going to put a large gap between Dread Fortress and Dread Palace, then they should have hard mode and nightmare mode released simultaneously. And I think a lot of the community would prefer that they just both be released simultaneously. Right? If they had them released simultaneously, I'd much rather have them tuned such that you need to have full hard mode gear on all 8 of your team members in order to be able to start clearing the nightmare content, and then you must have nightmare content on at least one piece on every single one of the people in the group in order to be able to complete the nightmare content. I think maybe what I'd like to see is actually have, like, I like your idea, Simon, where it's 6 weeks, so Dread Mode Fortress, then 6 weeks later Dread Mode Palace, then 6 weeks later Dread Mode Fortress Nightmare, then 6 months later, or 6 weeks later, 666, which is what, 3 months start to finish, so that's 6 months right there, from hard mode to nightmare mode, both of them.
It took them longer than that to design the nightmare mechanics, making it a little impractical. But
Which
I
is
like
crazy, because
concept.
the difference between hard mode and nightmare mode is not 6 months work. It really
They
is.
are, they are watching how people are clearing the content and designing the mechanics around that, which is something they probably shouldn't do. The nightmare mechanics around that. So
Right.
Well, yeah, and that's why I would actually prefer that they design it around the necessity of the gear, and fine, add mechanics as they've been watching or whatever, but then, because I think so much of the conversation has been, oh, well, okay, granted, the last time, one guild beat it in a week. But apparently because one guild did it, everybody in the game was gypped.
yeah,
Which is, obviously not the case. But everybody got upset because one guild did it. Okay, 8 people did it, and everybody else was complaining about it. Until you've done it, don't talk to me.
Right.
But if they actually geared it so that, you can only take down one boss until at least 2 or 3 people have gotten a piece off of that one boss, that's a 3-week gap right there. But
Right,
that's hard to tune too, I
pretty
imagine.
tricky.
And I do like the
That's
fact that they've
careful
made these
tuning.
fights mechanics.
Yeah. In the chat room saying that basically by putting them out at the same time and they're having this, similar names and so on, that it's easy to get them mixed up. They're at the same place, all that stuff. So yeah, it might, spacing them out might give them a bit more, might firm up their character in the in the minds of the players a little bit. It's like, okay, yeah, definitely Fortress, that was the earlier one. Now Palace, this is the later one, that sort of thing. So
I think it's called artificial gating. But
yeah, a bit artificial, but it's an artificial game, so.
Well, to be frank, actually, I do like. It would have been nice to have them 6 week gapped, particularly even for the story mode. They had different quest rewards for each. You got your Tauntaun mount from completing Dread Fortress. Wait 6 weeks and then give us the rewards for Dread Palace for completing that part of the storyline.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking along the lines of.
Anyway, the next question was how somebody asked me about my Vanguard experience, and it reminded me that somebody on Twitter this week was asking me about it. How is my Vanguard doing in the assault spec that I was learning, which is the 3rd tree. I had been playing 2nd tree for Season 1. And actually, for follow-up from Twitter was somebody asking me about which tree is better for PvP. Worth mentioning, I find the differences relevant. I'm not sure I can recommend one tree above the other, and this is assuming that you want to play DPS as opposed to a tank. If you want to be a tank, the tree's obvious.
Right.
The second tree is much more about survivability and utility. The damage output, especially concerning burst, is not quite as high. This is entirely from my perspective, and feel free to correct me. The 3rd tree is much more damage, and burst. And in particular, I didn't feel as survivable. Although when you use your aggro drop, you do get that extra ability, which I'm still learning to utilize. That does protect you against ranged and melee attack, not the force and tech. But
Yeah, that's cool.
So
the
it
thing
really
is-
does depend. Especially if you're working with people, I could see the utilization of the second tree being a lot more effective. And I've actually been queuing as the third tree this entire time with somebody who's playing the second tree. That way, he's bringing in his utility. He's got extra slows and mitigations and such like that. It's nice having him, and they like to focus him because he has less gear than I do, so that I can have the higher gear and have the damage output and destroy them while he's surviving a little bit better and helping the team.
Yeah, I think in general, though burst is always good in PvP, high-level PvPers will always find a lot of use and utility. So that's always going to be a strong option. Because the
Particularly for the
thing about having no utility but having the damage, it's great. But when you go up against a player who really knows what they're doing, they will find a way to shut down your damage and then take you out. Whereas if you have the utility, you can put that off. You can help, tie them down, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Just one last one. How are you guys leveling now? When, with all of these conquest objectives and everything, are you even focusing on alts, or are you getting on mains to make sure you get your conquest goals?
I'm doing the latter. I am not leveling. I find that if I'm in-game, I feel like I should be contributing the conquest points, which means sticking with my 55s for the most part.
For some reason, I feel very little of that same compunction, so I do go for conquest points, as far as I do, crafting missions and so on, but I don't really push for it very hard. And I am leveling on my Sentinel, but on any week when there's going to be when you get points for PvP matches, then I am contributing that way. So.
And the irony is, I was actually thinking if it's flashpoint heavy and it's not the 55 flashpoints that they're using, you can actually be leveling through flashpoints and getting conquest points that way.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Simon?
Before you cut me off. No, I was just saying that being a soloer, I have no responsibilities, no cares. I'm leveling alts because that's what I do.
Right. And you're totally welcome to feel that way after you join the guild. So.
Oh, I will. Trust me.
Good.
Oh, up to a point.
Which actually, there's something to be said too about those conquest points, because so many of them have been crafting oriented. As soon as you hit 150 on your crafting skill, you can contribute tons of conquest points that way.
Oh, well, that I can do.
That.
That I can do.
Yeah.
All my crafting's pretty high on most of my characters, so.
And that's
Yeah,
only
I
like
could-
the third or
I could
fourth
there.
planet.
Yeah,
So-
150 is nothing.
All right.
Yeah.
I was hoping to save the editing effort, given I've got to do the interview as well, and it's not working out that way. So let's wrap this up.
All right, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the hardware server, or in our
Utini Rage.
Guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then answer the quiz that lets us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're on @utinicast. I Twitter under my own name @Brandon L. Starr, and Tio uses his name @Jason Etheridge. Red Twitter's under at R3DN4, or you can watch him on twitch.tv/R3DN4. And Simon Twitter's under @RPGBeatsRL. Check out our website, OotiniCast.com, which has links to our presence on Google Plus and Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher and Spreaker. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you, Red, and thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.
Yay.
All right.
It's a
Keep
wrap.
recording.
Keep recording, yes.
Thank you, chat room. So much for a short show. I'm sure we could manage that if we really tried. But anyway, we will see you next week for episode 168, with the interview being published as episode 167 on Monday. Earn those conquest points.